Alright, so let's face it, if you was thinking that this was going to be a typical alien invasion film where the aliens are super powerful and they basically start occupying the world and you can't beat them because they have all this advanced technology and they control everything, but the humans is going to fight back and chip away at the aliens, etc., etc., and you're going to see a lot of aliens fighting people and eating people and tearing people apart and this, that, and the other, then obviously this isn't the film for you, because this was much less of that than you would have expected, and it was more subtle, certainly more political than your average movie of that type. So I would say frankly that this was less of a alien invasion horror movie than really a political thriller. I mean, I kind of saw it as more of a political thriller than anything else. I mean, if you think about it, there's very little horror or gore, people getting ripped apart or anything like that that you would typically see in one of these types of movies. Case in point, in the beginning, when the guy is driving with his family in a car and they go into this tunnel and they see the aliens at the end of the tunnel, and the windshield shatters, and the presumption is that the two adults is just like destroyed or eaten or whatever immediately, like on the spot. So they just seem to be very super powerful, super deadly, in a mysterious way. I mean, they never really show it graphically. That said, yes, then it did surprise me later when, I just call him the older brother, I think his name was Rafe, is in the car and the alien finds him and is basically attacking him in the car. It did seem a little comical, if not unbelievable, that alien could not kill the guy. I mean, were you surprised as well that the alien couldn't get at the guy? I mean, you thought that they were just super powerful, that they would just rip the door off the car, just rip the seat out of its bearings and just eat the guy. But like, the alien was having a hard time getting at the guy, which I said to myself, I just find this hard to believe. I thought these aliens was super powerful. It was almost to the point of being comical. It was like, it almost seemed like you fighting with your little brother over the remote, right? I mean, it was that kind of comical. At any rate, I'm making the point here that there was not very much horror or gore. It was all very more subtle and implied. Well, one thing that I liked about the film is that it was certainly a thinking man's film. It wasn't just, sit there in your seat and just watch everything unfold and everything that's explained and everything's from A to B to C. They left a lot of things unexplained and you sort of had to figure it out. You just had to put two and two together for a lot of things. And certainly at the end of the film, there was certainly a lot of information to unpack and to sort out and resort out and reprocess. On your ride home, you found yourself saying to yourself, so wait a minute now. So if he was doing that, that meant that all along he was thinking this or doing that. But wait a minute. But then why was he doing that? You almost had to process the film all over again. It's the type of film that you would benefit from seeing it a second time, though the film wasn't necessarily good enough that I would want to see it a second time, but I think you understand what I'm saying. So an example of that is that the guy, the younger brother, goes through the checkpoint. I think his name was Gabriel or something like that. You see the little lump in his neck, and so you say to yourself, that must be some type of security implant or chip or something that they have there. And then you play that out and say to yourself, I guess everybody has one of these security implants. and wait a minute, I guess they can detect when you don't have a security implant, and so they never really explain that like outright, but you just basically put the two pieces together gradually as the film was going on. All right, so one thing I thought was odd was that Gabriel had this collar. When you put the collar on, it basically, I'll just say, jammed, for lack of a better word, jammed the implant that they had, and this allowed him to kind of go from place to place undetected. And it seemed like he just carried around willy-nilly in his backpack and just whipped it on when he wanted and whipped it off when he wanted. And it just seemed that they was tracking this guy basically throughout the whole film, and it seemed like if they was tracking the whole time, they could tell when he was suddenly untrackable, and they said, "Oh, we can't track him." So why wouldn't they just figure he's blocking the implant? How is he doing that? He must have a blocking collar, and you would think that they would track him down and say, "Look, we figured out that you must have one of them blocking collars. Hand over the blocking collar." But no, they never, figure out that he has a collar or ask him for the collar, and he just carries it around in his backpack. And let's face it, the guy is stopped by the authorities all throughout the film, including John Goodman. Why couldn't John Goodman figure out that the guy has one of these collars? The guy was apprehended a lot of times. They don't find the collar on him. I mean, it's not like he goes to great length to hide it or anything. That just struck me as odd. Another point I want to make is that they constructed this master plan that literally took years in the construction, in the contrivance, to develop incriminating evidence against the commissioner, to develop this insurgency cell that in the end would lead back to number one, who they've set up to collect damaging information on the head commissioner, so that when he's removed, John Goodman character, Detective Mulligan, or Deputy Commissioner, whatever his title was, could ascend to head commissioner, so that he could be the one to go down into the caverns and destroy that network of hierarchy. That seemed to be the plan. So this whole cell was sacrificed for that purpose, apparently, just to be part of that plan. So it seems like a whole lot of work and a lot of lives were expended just for the purpose of taking down the head commissioner, so that John Goodman could ascend to head commissioner. You know what I'm saying? It just seemed like a lot of things had to fall into place just right for that plan to work. And wouldn't it have been just more practical just to take the guy out? I mean, just with a bullet, some random mugging in the street, and then John Goodman could rise up to be head commissioner? Like, why did they have to create this big elaborate plan to facilitate that? That just seemed not to make a lot of sense there. Okay, another point I'm going to make is that they assemble all the people to the tribunal. I'm going to call it a tribunal, where they listen to the tapes in front of the alien hierarchy with translators. It's like a UN almost. And they assemble the head commissioner, and John Goodman is there to explain his findings and everything. And a couple of things struck me as odd, like, huh? And the first thing that struck me was when he was explaining the cell, and when they was explaining about number one, who in theory was the mastermind behind all this. John Goodman said, really don't have much on this lady in the last 9 years, or something to that effect, right? And that just kind of struck me as odd. because no one can just really disappear like that off the grid like that and no one know nothing about it. And he had a lot of resources at his disposal, and even the aliens had resources at their disposal. It just seemed odd that, he was collecting all this information. He could tell you all about these other people, but they were unable to really develop any information about this lady. Now, as it turned out, he was protecting the lady. We now know that, but I don't know that you could just get away with saying, and we couldn't find out anything about this lady. And she was the mastermind behind the whole thing. Apparently, ostensibly, she was the mastermind, but they just couldn't find out much on her. That just seemed a little odd. Another thing that struck me as odd was that they was going into this tribunal, and they was ostensibly listening to these tapes for the very first time. And, unvetted, apparently, because it certainly caught the head commissioner by surprise. He didn't know his name was going to come up in them tapes and incriminated and embarrassed. And so how does he go there? He knows when he's walking in there that this lady made tapes. How does he not know that he's going to come up on these tapes? How does he not know that? And how does he allow that to happen? He's the commissioner. He could confiscate all them tapes and files. He's the head commissioner. He's John Goodman's boss. He could say, shut this down, blah, blah, blah. How does he walk into that tribunal cold, not knowing what's going to be exposed in those tapes? And how do they hold a tribunal where they're going to listen to these tapes for the first time in front of the aliens, not knowing? Like, before you do anything with the alien hierarchy, you better, if you didn't learn one thing, you should know that you have to have your stuff together before you go talk to the alien hierarchy. Like, they don't play. Like, you're not going to listen to these tapes for the very first time in front of the alien hierarchy without at least listening to the tapes yourself, it would seem. You don't want to be caught off guard. That seemed a little odd. Now you're going to say, oh no, that wasn't for the first time. John Goodman listened to them and he knew what was on them tapes and everything. Wait a minute, but you're saying John Goodman listened to the tapes, but the head commissioner did not listen to the tapes? I mean, that just seemed a little odd that the head commissioner could literally get caught with his pants down at the tribunal like that. That just seemed very odd. Alright, and so the last point I'm going to make is that, in the end, we see John Goodman go down into the shaft. He's wearing that gel that explodes and everything. And obviously the implication is that he went down there and blew up, another hierarchy cell of aliens or whatever you want to call it. Now, these aliens, they don't come across as stupid. It seems like they're pretty diligent about almost everything. Wouldn't you think that after the first mishap with the other leader who went down with the gel and blew everything up, they was now more skittish about allowing these leaders to come down into the shaft? Don't you figure that even the aliens did some type of investigation and they filed some kind of report on what happened, and the alien investigators figured out that the guy came down had some type of undetectable gel that blew up, and that's the findings of our report. Now, don't you figure that following that huge mishap, they was more diligent about them commissioners coming down into the shaft and kind of having some type of mechanism for checking for gel so that one of them type of mishaps doesn't happen again? Wouldn't you think that they would be a little more diligent about protecting against that type of incursion, protecting against that type of threat? just let the same thing happen again? Now you're gonna say, oh no, but see, they didn't know it was from a gel. They never was able to figure that out. Well, I find it hard to believe, because you would think that just with a cursory pat down, like you go when you go to see a concert, would have detected that gel all over his back, because it seemed like he had even a bigger gel bomb than the other guy. You would have thought that even the most cursory security check would have detected this gel on his back, but apparently not. So that did strike me as unbelievable. Alright, so overall, guys, I did enjoy the film. I would probably give it something like a C+ if I was grading it, because it's a little better than average, but certainly not special. And I could see myself kind of forgetting about this film a year from now. So, in my mind, a C+ seems about right. I thought it was an effective political thriller. I didn't find it that much engaging as a alien invasion horror special effects kind of film. So that's my thoughts on that. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Please like, comment, or subscribe, and I will see you again next time. Bye bye.